we now continue with our next session focused on available tools for building data spaces and digital ecosystems. A practical look at how Gaia-X principles are being implemented. Okay, Christoph, the floor is yours.
Yeah, the floor is yours, and I please invite all my participants in the panel. We have a very diverse panel. This is by design, so it will not be like a PS panel, so breadth is of the essence right now. And we didn't talk about that, but if you could sit in the same order as the slides, then the people would have a very easy way. Yeah, maybe the people would be able to change that, because that was too close to the entry. And you know, Peter Altmaier, 2019, he fell from the stage actually and hurt himself tremendously. So we definitely want to avoid that. Yeah, Matthias is. Yeah.
Matthias?
Yeah.
Matthias de Bièvre.
We have some time, of course, but he's coming. Ah, perfect. Yeah. Maybe we are ahead of time, but not really. Yeah. And I had to choose a seated order because we are too many people to stay on stage. Before I start into the topic about tooling and standards, may I ask every participant on the panel for a very short introduction, especially of what your company does and potentially how you relate to Gaia-X and to ecosystems. Maybe I start with you, Kai, for those who don't know you. Just very short, yeah. It should be on, shouldn't it? No?
Yes, perfect. My name is Meinke. I'm co-founder and board member of deltaDAO. We are situated in Hamburg, and we do data spaces and only data spaces and nothing else. And besides that, I have the pleasure to be a board member of Gaia-X.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Leonardo Camiciotti. I'm executive director at Topics. I'm not schizophrenic, since I was on stage representing Opiquad. Opiquad is one of the co-founders of the Fulcrum project I will be talking about federated cloud.
Okay, hello, good afternoon. I'm Clara Pezuela, Strategic Alliances and Positioning Director at ITI. It's a technology center located in Valencia, in Spain. And in relation to Gaia-X, my colleague is part of the board of directors, and we are also coordinating the Gaia-X Hub in Spain.
Hi everyone, I'm Alban Schmutz, so I'm CEO of Cloud Data Engine. So Cloud Data Engine has been doing something you've seen already on stage, which is the automation of compliance. So the level 3 handover you've seen has been made through Cloud Data Engine. And so our company does automated compliance topics and how it helps to build marketplaces, so Fulcrum has been mentioned, and data spaces to rely on, I would say, compliance information to do some decision making there. And I'm one of the founders of Gaia-X, and I'm currently the chairman of the Policy Rules Committee.
Good afternoon, I'm Mauro Brambilla. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Dynamo. Dynamo is an Italian company, and we are a marketplace for a pure European solution, federation of cloud service providers who are willing to offer the services within Europe. We are using the Gaia-X digital clearinghouse to create the verifiable credential, both for the legal participant and also for the publishing of services. And I'm also in the board of directors of Gaia-X.
Hi everybody, I'm the president of Prometheus-X. It's a non-profit developing with its members open source components for data spaces. And I'm the CEO of Visions, which provides a data space service on top of these open source components and works a lot on data space interoperability across different stacks and standards. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that really concise introduction. Thanks a lot in the interest of time. I have a few statements regarding the context. I mean, it's a a plain truism, a very naive one, that in order to build digital ecosystems, including data spaces, of course, you need suitable IT tools and also standards. The key word in my short sentence, however, is suitable. Because this suitability criteria depends, of course, will you say, on the types of users. But in a data space, in an ecosystem, you have the pure users, like the consumers of data, the consumers of services. You have the data producers, you have the service providers, you have intermediaries of various sorts, federation services providers, orchestrators, data space governance authorities. So tooling then is a much suitable tooling, is a much larger thing than just having one piece of software. First learning. Second learning is, we heard a lot about season 2, which is of data spaces and ecosystem, which is scaling out into the masses. 80% are small and medium-sized enterprises. Of course, they will consume any tool in a completely different form due to their size requirements, probably like connector as a service, AI on demand, something like that. Completely different from a clearinghouse or from OVH, which will have to run Gaia-X level 3 compliant services in their own data center. So the requirements, the non-functional and functional, will vary largely. So that's the suitability part of that is, of course, crucial here. And then we did a little bit of research. We are not going into the details here, but underneath the talk of, oh, we have all the standards, underneath we have a more diverse picture. And we also have similar pictures for routing protocols in the internet, for GSM protocols. And the first question to the panelists, I will go back to the panelists so that you can relate it. We are not talking about that element. The first question I want to start with Alban is, if you look from your perspective on a higher level, for instance, as a tool provider, on the underlying technology, tooling, and standard landscape, what is the status? What is your take? What is your evaluation? And do you see any immediate shortcomings? I would ask you, please, a short answer. Yeah.
How many hours do you have?
I think 3 minutes, yeah.
I think the good question is the tooling, since I would say standards needs to be implemented, but if you want to have a data space operated, so you need implementation, and I think therefore the tooling question, I think, is really relevant. I would focus on what we do as a cloud data engine, which will be complementary to our friends will say, but basically what is already available. So today we are already able to monitor continuously the compliance of cloud services offerings. It has been showcased with the level 3 of Gaia-X earlier, but on many other areas, we can already do it. So we can use the existing proofs, reports, attestations of certification, use what is called a notary service to bring value on that and to go inside of the information to create additional information on a readable format to be able to make it possible, and to go with all this in a pipeline giving labels, the one of Gaia-X, but it could be on sectorial labels, financial services, energy services, whatever you want on this, and to be able to have the services available, ready to be embedded in marketplaces. I'm expecting a provider for my sensitive data, which is Gaia-X level 3 in Poland. What are the offerings available? I can have it and use it accordingly also to my SLAs, whatever. I think Leo will talk about Fulcrum later on. And I think this is already available, and it's already, I would say, possible to go in and to use it. On a user perspective, users needs to demonstrate compliance to regulation. You have lots of European regulation. I think all European people in the room know that we don't have the hyperscalers on the technological perspective, but I think in terms of of creating legislation, Europe is a hyperscaler, for sure. And so we implement this, and if you want, we'll be able to demonstrate back-to-back on an NIS2 for cybersecurity, on the energy efficiency directive, whatever. If you are a user, you need to know if your provider is fulfilling its requirements, the provider of your provider is fulfilling the requirements, and so you have to be able to monitor this and to demonstrate to the judge if there is a problem, that you have all the credentials showing that you've done your job. So, and all this is useful to procure cloud services, but it will be useful for data spaces once in production. So today, most of the data spaces are not in production, and to ensure that this works for data, this works for processing, and all this is working together. So I think there are already lots of things existing to help this.
Perfect. Leonardo, may I ask you, do you share that optimistic view that we have everything in place already?
Well, you know that I come from a totally different perspective, in the sense that I take care of the other part, so the bottom part of the X, so the infrastructure. You know, we are also, in all those nice slides, you always have these data space participants, okay, that seems to be there out of the blue. But in the end, you have to understand that you have to take it there with the infrastructure, because otherwise there won't be any data space without infrastructure. And all the related issues there, so whatever you might interpret as sovereignty or efficiency or let's say interoperability, then need to be translated into infrastructure as well. So that's the point of view we have taken with the Fulcrum project. So for those who don't know, that is a federated cloud model, a real federated cloud. So we take care of letting infrastructure between cloud service provider, managed service provider, system integrators talk to each other. So to trade infrastructure so that you can trade services based on infrastructure. So it's a broker to such an extent that enables even the tiny providers to rely on other resources. So like if you want to simplify a roaming for clouds, okay? So that even the tiny provider who has the needed last commercial mile interface with the tiny companies who want to be onboarded there, we have heard about a lot of providers in all the data spaces, thousands of providers. Those thousands of providers probably will mainly SMEs, okay? So in order to interface with those SMEs, you need providers SMEs. And therefore, those guys won't stay on the market unless they are federated because of the pressure of the big guys, which are not enemies. It's someone who needs them to reach the capillarity that you need in order to get all those use cases, because data space is a use case for a provider, at scale, okay? So this is what we need. Therefore, our interest is in this part, and to let the data space finally reach the scale they should reach after so many years, I would say. And therefore, we decided to have an approach, and the components, so the technical components for R, is a real open source that we already have released. It's on GitHub, available for everybody who wants to replicate the thing, and is quite simple, I would say, core agents architecture, so that you have a core and you have your agents that are talking the different dialects of the cloud. So that is like in a stock exchange where you go there and you buy, I don't know, iron, sugar, or stocks. You can go there and trade with your peers who are talking the same language as you're talking through the same agents.
So that's also a more positive view, if not outright positive.
No.
Yep.
It's a concrete view. So we're turning that into working code and reality. So trying to come from legislation, let's say theory or willing.
Yeah, that's perfect. Just for the sake of the audience, I want to establish some baselines. It's for them to judge.
Yeah. So it's really concretely optimistic.
Yeah. We have had now two kind of more provider sites or intermediary sites. May I ask Kai then, more from a user perspective, of course you're also a provider in a certain sense, from a user perspective, whether you share at this point of the discussion, we will have more time later, whether you share that optimism.
Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted that so much work has been done on the infrastructure layer, because we are absolutely users. I don't want to deal with all that hassle and all that effort. I just want to use it to implement the services a level higher, right? Because we concentrate on the software and describing the software and making it work and operating it, so we are building on the shoulders of giants here who did all the previous work. So yeah, that outlook was very positive, and I share it because all the work you have done enables us to scale the infrastructure, to use compliant infrastructure, keeps our DPOs happy, who have a good look at the infrastructure, and then build added value services we can offer to others. And I'm also, since we already covered cloud, happy about the advancement as users in other areas. Most notably on the identity plane when we look at Europe, right? So European digital identities will be coming forward and standardize everything. So we set a legal path here, it's a clear commitment, the software is coming, and that is needed, and it's a foundation for every data space infrastructure we build here. We need to reuse these open, standardized, well-regulated identity ecosystems. Otherwise, we just start the next silos, and the EUDI and the standards we have here, as well as the credential models, are fantastic to scale this. And Gaia-X did a lot of work assembling the best in class together to make it usable and introduce it to the wider community. And that has not been easy, right? There has been pushback about these self-sovereign identities, and now everybody acknowledges this is the way, and this is the way forward to Europe, to come to a high assurance level, so I can actually trust those identities without relying on a single identity provider. And the standards, you compiled them already in the nice picture you shared. These are shared among the wide majority of data space technology providers and orchestrators and users now, because they will simply outscale everything. So we don't need many more discussions on that level. They will be used at scale. So as a user, I'm super happy about that. I'm also very happy about the maturity of Gaia-X. It's growing and it's becoming more usable. So we rely on that as well to build the right software services on top of it. So yeah, I would say a very positive picture. Now coming as a user to the technologies to build data spaces, why we're here. It is good, and I'm sitting in one boat, but there are other boats as well, also here on the panel, that we have a wide variety of choices, right? Sometimes it might be a bit overwhelming, there we can get better to make them comparable, but it's generally good. From season 2 of data spaces, I now expect them to accelerate. In season 1, we established these different frameworks, and now the consumers, the users, can make a good choice, but only after they evaluated the technology. Yeah. Most is available as free open source, which is good. Well, it's not necessary, but it's really good that we are here. And now you can evaluate, you can score for your use cases, and you can select the right technology and make a call depending on your domain, on your country, on your regulation, on your use case. And that's a great achievement, that you just don't have to bet blindly on one horse and then see how it goes further down the project. You have a lot of experience available in the market, a lot of people you can talk to, you have reference implementations where you can get started, and that makes it way easier to bootstrap value creation in season 2 of data spaces. So yeah, positive outlook.
Thanks a lot for that very positive initial round of discussion. I would now like to open up. We have 3 other discussants, as I learned. It's an English term. Mauro, Clara, Matthias. Do you share that positive view your colleagues have just presented? Yeah, please, you are the first. Yeah. If you just raise your hand, then I can sort out the sequence. Yeah, you were the first.
Yeah, maybe not so positive. So one of our main missions, or let me bring here the painful of the solution providers in this landscape of standards and technologies, because one of our main missions is to support companies, especially small and medium companies, in their digitalization journey, and also creating value out of their data. For that, we have a digital solution which is integrating different elements, and it's mainly dedicated to prepare the data of these organizations to be connected to a data space, but also to provide facilities for building a data space. And what we are observe is that, well, we don't develop our own connectors, we don't develop our own trust frameworks, we are relying on existing ones. And the plethora of technologies and standards that we are facing, it's incredibly costly for us, because every time that we need to integrate a new connector, a new trust framework, it's an investment in money, it's an investment in time, and this lack of interoperability is really decreasing the competitiveness of us, but of any other solution provider that would like to, let's say, play into the ground. So we think that having a clear interoperability framework for data spaces, which allows us to mitigate all this, which allows us to abstract this complexity to the users, and we will make us more, let's say, interoperable and really tackling the issues of the users, which is in the end the purpose of a solution provider.
Yeah, excellent remark, yeah. Any comments from your side, Mauro, Matthias?
Yes.
You're allowed to disagree, of course, yeah.
I would like to
connect
with what Leonardo says before about the infrastructure that many times is forgotten because we speak about the upper level, but the lower level is almost important. So there are several initiatives. Fulcrum is one. We have done an initiative with Ionos and Aruba named Seca API, for instance. That is an open source project to create common APIs in order to avoid lock-in and to create a common set of APIs for infrastructures within Europe, and this is one of the others. And I also connect to the reflection that most of the players within the data spaces are SMEs. SMEs are struggling to enter in data spaces for many reasons, because first of all, they do not have this large IT budget in order to create all the tools they need to be onboarded, for instance. And there is a lot of technologies and frameworks, and maybe is missing a gauge, a compass to navigate through, okay? So I think that we need also some unified onboarding toolkits. Maybe we are on Dynamo, we worked combining ADAS, for instance, with Gaia-X digital clearinghouse, and we can leverage on this kind of onboarding system, trying to create a single reusable module that could be available for any data spaces, maybe as a service, okay? Maybe we can do it one for free as open source, and to give the initial basic toolkit for an SME to enter, and for a very reasonable price, a connector as a service that could be used for all the SMEs, for instance.
Yep, thanks a lot. Anyone, any further remark, please?
Yes, I'd like to agree with what Clara said in a sense. I think at this point, we need to create a bigger pie. We created a lot of small pies that taste great, and the clients and the users, they liked it. We have a lot of good solutions that show the potential of data exchange. However, now the clients say, I want more. You connect a few data sets. I want all the data sets, right? And if we take an example, a bank, for instance, they would connect to a finance data space, to an HR data space, to any kind of sectoral data space because they want to invest in this or that sector. today, and it was Clara saying, you need to deploy 5 different connectors or 5 different systems, and it becomes too costly, in a sense, compared to the value. So I think in the season 2, season 1, as Kai said, is, okay, we have the tooling, we have connected some ecosystems. Season 2, I think the users, the clients are saying, okay, tool providers, connect yourselves so that I can access all the data that is connected and not only the data that is connected by my provider. And this next step, interoperability, I think is essential not only for the clients, because the clients will find other solutions. There are other ways than data spaces to exchange data. So it's for the tool providers and for data spaces and for Gaia-X to say, okay, if we want to really fulfill our promise, we need to enable this wider ecosystem, and that comes from, you had on your slides the different standards and all the different implementations, that these implementations talk to each other, and as Clara was saying, this data space interoperability framework aims to do that.
Yeah, thanks. Any media? Do you want to mediate? One reply is still in order.
Yeah, I really want to second what Matthias just said. I think season 2 will be about becoming more user-centric, because the user doesn't care about the technology or the provider of the technology, or maybe about the provider a little bit when we talk about sovereignty, but I just want to get what I'm looking for, and these cross-federations, the exchange between technologies plays a vital role to faster come to value creation and the search results. And I'm really happy to see in the market that a lot of smaller players and also larger players are now working together in action to achieve this. That's valuable for the user and for the orchestrators to become more relevant.
Yeah, thanks a lot, because that was already an implicit lead-in into the second the round of questions I wanted to address, or I wanted the panel to address and answer, and that was already led in by what would be needed in season 2 of data spaces and digital ecosystems. You have already started discussing points of that, but maybe you could also imagine yourself in your primary role, either as a user. What additional requirements, if you think from a user perspective, do you really personally or from your ecosystem would see in season 2, not today or tomorrow, but maybe in 2 or 3 years? So think a little bit bigger. I invite one. And for the providers or intermediaries, for the tool providers, maybe you have already an idea in which direction your roadmap you could be going. Like with Gaia-X, this vertical AI, maybe that's part of season 2, just for us, for Gaia-X. Maybe you have already an idea and you can share that ideas with you for season 2. And I wanted to give Clara the first opportunity to, because you were not participating in the first round. So
okay.
Season
Thank
2
you.
for you.
Well, season 2. The first thing we need to have for reach season 2 is to be truly interoperable in season 1.
Yeah.
So assuming that we are already interoperable and that we are able to, let's say, exchange data fluently, I think that the next step or my wish for season 2 is automation. So as Matthias said, I think that if we want to play, for example, our solution with various connectors, with various trust frameworks, for us would be ideal to have all this in an automated manner and not manually as we are doing right now. So integrating one by one. So maybe, I don't know, through agents or through whatever kind of agentic AI, we are able to do this automation. Second, as data spaces are a good instrument for AI, we would like also to see how the AI models generated based on the data shared in data spaces can be also shared in the data spaces. So maybe incorporate AI models as part of the sharing, as part of sharing in the catalog. And finally, to maybe increase the security in the data transaction. So I don't know, for example, we are exploring differential privacy in the data transactions for increasing the security. So maybe security is another field that we can wish for season 2.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that outlook, more from a tool provider, but very holistic actually. Mauro, may I ask you secondly, what's your take on the requirements and potential roadmaps in season 2?
I fully agree on what she said, and because to me automation is key. Also, we need onboarding modules that can be reused across the ecosystem, not rebuilt every time. APIs that can expose trust events and compliance and service credential in real time. And also a governance framework, especially for Gen AI, that travel across border from Europe to Asia and beyond, as Ulrich says at the very beginning of this morning. Because without this kind of common trust foundation, Gen AI enrichment and supply chain transparency and cross-regional interoperability, simple won't be possible to do next generation data space to me.
Okay, perfect. Would you like to add something, Leonardo, from your perspective?
Well, you know, normally you have season 2 of a TV series or a movie when the first one has been successful. So probably, so far the success can be measured in terms of technology because we see a lot of standards there. So assuming that has been a success, I think that market-wise is not a success yet. So we miss the scale that would make it, or would allow us to call it a success. So that's where we are engaged with. I mean, trying to make an intermediary on 2 directions. I mean, one is the horizontal. Yep. So try to connect the providers so that they can have the portfolio breadth and the market reach that could make them comparable to the hyperscalers. But more than that, they could allow them to reach the scale that the data spaces need. And that's the vertical dimension. So that you go to every single SME and you take that on cloud, if they are not yet there, or you convince them to use the services that allow them to be participant in a data space. Again, they are not all of them are there. A tiny part of them is there. And that means that you have to integrate that service components in a portfolio of providers that are the distribution and sale channel for data spaces. Okay, you have to reach the market. And the market is someone paying for a specific service that must be affordable for SMEs and convenient for the providers selling to the SMEs. So it's a real marketing effort. So it's about pricing, it's about distribution channel, it's about being known by the user. So from a user's perspective, this is what is important. And to me, that is the real sovereignty concept. I mean, to me, the sovereignty has nothing to do with geography, because if you take any of the data space, the big ones, they operate globally, so you cannot make it, and you have touched in the geographic extension, so you have a customization depending on the geography, but it's more the control from the user of what he can do with data, in which domain, and how he can trace what is done with his data or her data. So it's an application and domain-related control and transparency games, and that's why and where Gaia-X Trust Framework becomes relevant, because of course if you think about these federated models, then you need trust between so all the participants in these federations, and that's where you need a technical digital tool to make it automated. Now, last word about the upcoming AI thing. The upcoming AI thing is the agentic AI, which is totally different from the LLM and Gen AI mentioned so far. It's not a concentrated $1 trillion data center game. It's a distributed game where you have a local retraining, energy optimization, and it's by definition, again, a distributed and collaborative and federated model where a trust framework can make the difference. But we are assuming that you have an underlying federation. So that's where my obsession stays.
Thanks a lot. Alban, any comments, things the others have missed, or you wish?
I have a couple of comments, and I agree with Leo. I think we are not yet at season 2. We are still missing a couple of things to finalize the season 1, to have it, I would say, fully workable. But just to be, I would say, forward-looking, I think there are 4 things, in my view, that are very important. One, it has been mentioned by Leo, is adoption, and I would say at scale. And I think this is really important, since today, I would say all the data spaces, technology globally are, I would say, mostly in proof of concept mode, are not at production level. So adoption, large scale, is very important. Second is, I would say, and I think it's more also in terms of technology forward-looking here, is real decentralization. So there are lots of data spaces around. I would say most of them are not conceived fully decentralized. And I think if we want to bring everything, we say, at scale, and if we want to reshape the game on the market of not giving all the European money to non-European players, we need that, since otherwise we are not playing by our rules and we will lose. Third, in my view, is that yes, we need automation. So we already have a certain level of automation available. So as we mentioned it earlier, so today it's possible to embed, I would say, automatically cloud providers related to the services offerings at the underneath layer. Okay, but we will need to be able to do some automation in the whole value chain, and being able to compose services of cloud services, being able to do composition at data level, etc. as well. So I think this is also very important. And the fourth one, I think Clara stated at an entry point, but I think we need that afterwards, is interoperability. We are not yet at the interoperability level. And if we really want to have the value of the data spaces, it means that you need to have interconnected data spaces. You will have things at the infrastructure level. We are, I would say, leading an infrastructure data space, for example. But you need to have verticals, and all these will need to be able to work together. So you have data spaces in the energy, but the energy is part also of a smart grid, of a smart city, which relies on infrastructure, etc. So interoperability at various levels is required and is not reached yet. So I think we need to work on these 4 things, and before going to season 2, there are little things to do before. Okay.
Yep. Matthias, you have raised your hand.
Yes, so also on season 2, I think we need new characters in season 2. So
the question is who will die in season 1?
Yes, exactly. Also, so the new characters, and it ties to the interoperability stuff, is that one way of doing new characters, you can do crossover episodes. Okay, a participant from one data space participating in another, and so on. We have that, for instance, now we work on skills and education. They need media data. Okay, so we interconnect with the media data space, and the solutions developed in the skills domain, education domain, can be distributed to the media space. This creates a bigger market. Interoperability, new characters, the SMEs that we're talking about, they will want a very easy service, like a search engine, across all the data spaces to onboard much more quicker. And aside from all the technical stuff that is needed, we also need a business approach to enable this, let's say, interoperability and multiplicity. We have today a strong, in a sense, theory under data spaces that what is generally funded, especially in France, is data space around one big player that defines everything under their supply chain, and everything is concentrated around that big player. That's one form of a data space. you have others where you have a lot of smaller players that there is no one single one defining what everybody else does. They define it themselves, and it's more like an open marketplace. And this is a business model based on transactions, on commissions, on a marketplace business model. And this is not yet, I think, enough understood as a big potential. And we need to remind ourselves that the biggest market in the world today is a data market. It's the ads market. We can, of course, it's not perfectly, trustworthy, as we say, but it's a decentralized marketplace with a lot of different marketplace providers, a lot of different brokers, a lot of different data providers. And I believe in the end, the data spaces will mostly be a marketplace, but we need to start having that mindset as well.
Okay. Yep. Any other comments? Violent, maybe disagreements? Which is good, I think, for the audience.
Most things have already been said. I just want to add one thing.
Yep.
Stop building silos. So that must be a precondition. You already had domestic procurement. We need to get the money in the market, right? After first bold moves to advance. But prohibit building the next silo after the next silo after the next silo. Make it a condition. The next data space must be able to connect to at least 2 others to kickstart this, if not more. If that's not written in the concept of the data space, I think we don't need it. Very rare example.
Okay. Yeah, thanks a lot for that tour d'horizon of the current state and potentially the requirements of season 2, including new characters and maybe increasing the pie for everyone through network effects. Thank you for the focused contributions. I have one last ask for the panel. In 1 or maximally 2 sentences, because we are running out of time, what would a final statement, and it does not even be related to the panel, but if you have the chance, and I give it to you, of 1 or 2 sentences where you can address the panel, what would that sentence or those 2 sentences be? I will start with you and then go round robin, Leonardo.
Well, to me, it's quite straightforward because you need the only chance we have in Europe, I see, is to have federate infrastructure and possibly data spaces in order to expand market reach and maximize market adoption. Yeah. It's a market challenge at this stage, and let the market happen. So don't bet. We have a few elephants and a lot of mice. Yeah. Let the mice run as well, all together. With
you mean not too many regulations?
Yeah, I mean, we have enough regulation.
Oh, yeah.
Well written, well done. I think it's enough. I mean, we're talking a lot about regulation. Let us forget about the market, and now it's market time.
Yep. Thanks a lot. Clara, please.
Well, if we want to watch the season 2, and we want to play in the new area of data sharing, we need to be interoperable to reach interoperability now. So there is no excuse. It's just a matter of openness, of willingness. And then let's find a good filming team.
Excellent. Alban?
I would make it simple. It's get engaged on your, as a user side, make things very clear in your RFPs, looking at Martin, that you need things from your providers that are back-to-back with what we do here. And so, for instance, Gaia-X labels, for example, but also trust framework and other things. So if this is part of the RFPs, providers will provide offerings in relation to their customers. So this is moving the market. So first thing, and on the other side, to make the life easier for those creating RFPs, get engaged, and I would say already be part of the initiatives, get a Gaia-X stamp, be part of marketplaces, be part of data spaces if you are not already, etc. And so create opportunities for customers to trust the fact that there are offerings on the market. And so if we move both sides of the coin at the same time, then we have power.
Thank you for that sentence.
I agree on what has said since now. I would like to add only that standardized trust and automate onboarding and everything else in the data space will be more easier.
Perfect, yep.
So I will finish by explaining a bit. We talked about the data space interoperability framework and say in a sentence what it is. It is a set of providers, most of those that are around this table, that say, okay, we commit and we do the necessary steps to make this pie bigger and to become interoperable. So come at 6:30 at our stand to know more.
Excellent. And I think you are the final words.
Okay, the last one, very short. Try and evaluate before you decide. There are many solutions available. Mostly you can onboard for free. Try it out. Don't commit blindly to a framework. You will do much better this way.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that differentiated, positive, but highly differentiated, and I think useful view. I do not make a summary or judgment. I leave that up to you. Maybe we find some reflection in the Gaia-X magazine in December. Thanks a lot for your contribution, for the little bit diverse, thank you, Clara, panel. And I think get engaged is exactly what we can do the next 1.5 days. Thanks a lot, and you are now officially dismissed.
Thank you.
Thank you.